With so much focus on Dr. Liggins and Fayette County Public Schools right now, some viewers are wondering about the other names that were in the mix for superintendent when there was a search going on back in 2021. Janet is asking what happened to the other people who were finalists for the superintendent job when Dr. Liggins was hired. Here's Victor Puente with the answer to that good question.
When Dr. Demetrius Liggins was hired, there were 5 finalists named. All of them went on to superintendent jobs at other districts, although one of them is now working for a private company. Dr. Chris Bernier is now the superintendent of Duval County Public Schools in Florida. He was sworn in 2024. The school system says during his first year, Dr. Bernier, together with the school board and district leadership, led Duval County to its first and historic A rating from the state of Florida. There was a report that said an investigator at his previous district in Florida found that he had been disrespectful to members of his staff. His current school released a statement that said, in part, Dr. Bernier acknowledges that the report reflects areas in which he can improve, particularly with interpersonal interactions with senior leaders. He is committed to that improvement. Dr. Melvin J. Brown didn't get the job in Lexington, but he did get the job in Montgomery, Alabama, where he was the superintendent of their schools until 2024. Brown released a statement confirming that tensions with the school board played a role in his decision to leave. He said this interference has caused so much emotional distress that I arrived at the point that I could not in good conscience continue serving in this role. The mayor of Montgomery, Alabama said his departure was a significant loss for their community. He's now the superintendent in residence for Defined, a company that develops project-based learning resources for educators. Dr. Tawana Grover, now Dr. Tawana Lannon, was the superintendent of Grand Island Public Schools in Grand Island, Nebraska. There was a bit of controversy during her time there. Our sister station reported a soccer coach was fired after posting what the district deemed as confidential information regarding student survey results about school culture and climate. That coach criticized Lannon and the school board for lack of transparency and for hiding issues he said the district had with teacher satisfaction, recruitment, and retention. She resigned from the district and has been superintendent of the Cedar Rapids School District in Iowa since 2023. Just last year, the school board there voted to extend her contract through 2028. Finally, Dr. Angela Dominguez is now the superintendent for the Donna Independent School District in Donna, Texas. In 2025, she was named the Regional Superintendent of the Year by the Texas Association of School Boards. The school system says under her leadership, kindergarten literacy rates soared from 18% in 2021 to 85% by 2024. They also had 4 consecutive years of a perfect state financial integrity rating of 100. So there you go, the 4 other finalists who were not hired. If you have a good question, just email us, goodquestion@wkyt.com. I'll see you on WKYT Mornings.